All right, we're live. What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And we've got a good buddy of ours on the podcast again today. And, well, not again, but another good buddy coming on. And, man, this episode is probably one. I know we've done some great episodes, but to me, this is going to be one of the most important episodes for all the anglers and stuff, and especially being out in a boat, if it's bass fishing, cat fishing, or whatever kind of fishing, or even recreation, being out on a boat. This episode's going to give you a lot of information of do's and don'ts and what you need to have on the boats. It's going to be phenomenal. And if you don't know, guys, I'm Colin Burnett.
And that's right, Colin, and I'm Norma Lee. But you know what? First things first, as always, we got to pay some bills tonight. Talk about the sponsor for tonight's episode, Joe Burns Rods. Custom rods built with one goal in mind, to build you the best rod that you have ever owned. When you buy a Joe Burns rod, they are built for you to match the way you fish, to fit your fishing style, whether you're in the market for a flipping stick, a spinning rod, bait caster, cranking stick, or even crappie rods. Joe Burns has you covered. From their unmatched power to the backbone, the tip action and sensitivity, with a guide system to improve your accuracy, giving you longer distance on every cast. But here's the kicker, the best part of buying a Joe Burns rod: it will be built for you to suit your fishing style, your grip, your forearm length. They are here to work with you as fishermen to build you the ultimate fishing rod, unmatched and unwavered by any other rod that you have ever yanked back on. Join the Joe Burns Rods family by calling for more information at 423-618-9499. Let's get some Joe Burns rods on your deck, and make sure to ask about their patented cork graphite handle. All right, Colin, that's right, man. We have a great guest coming on. Quite honestly, I think both of us has been wanting to kind of line up things to get this man on for a long time now. But anyway, here we go. Let's give him the proper introduction that he so well deserves. Our guest tonight is a true, legit hammer on the water. With his passion for the outdoors, he started his insurance agency designed to support outdoor enthusiasts like himself. After 25 years, he has built a clientele from coast to coast, with over 4,500 outdoorsmen and fishing enthusiasts wanting to make sure their valuable investment is secure and protected. Joining us is tournament angler and the owner of Ben Green Insurance, the man himself, Mr. Ben Green.
What's up, brother?
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me on the Tech Talk podcast. I mean,
Yes,
we've
sir.
been talking about it for a while, and
Yeah.
thank you, Colin. For we were just showing before we went live here. You're talking about catching them on a chatterbait bladed jig over there in Mullins Cove. You
Yeah.
put me on those fish a couple years ago, if you remember. I said I have no clue, and I found those spinnerbait fish. So I really appreciate that too. But hey, we're here today, and
Yeah.
I love the opportunity to talk to your audience, which, you know, it's insurance is never something fun to talk about, but it definitely is something that we all need. And,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, and to one reason why, guys, I wanted to have this episode because, again, being out on the water and being the water safety is very important. I mean, it could determine you going home tonight or you being put in a box. And so, I mean, not to kind of be blunt, but you kind of have to be blunt about it for people to understand. And so when I was thinking of like kind of the episodes and stuff that we want to have on and this year we've kind of we're venturing out into other aspects of fishing with crappie, catfishing. We're going to have some people on with saltwater fishing, inshore, offshore, but the safety was a big thing for us that we wanted to make sure that we done an episode. And Ben and I have been friends. I don't know. It's been what 6-7 years or something like that, and
Quite a while.
And he's also I mean I've called him about insurance stuff especially with running tournaments. He's helped me out with to make sure that I was covered insurance wise, and so and I've talked to him about other stuff that has to do with insurance, and he's just a book full of knowledge. And so when you have the opportunity to have a friend that you could get on to where he could talk about being safe out on the water, and we may be able to kind of get story wise that from him to where he can where you can kind of get the whole big picture from what he does. And but that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that that we done an episode of safety, and I had to get Ben on here because when you're doing that for day in and day out for over 25 years, it's kind of, you probably do it in your sleep, I'd say.
Nobody likes insurance, but
right. I mean, but somebody, I mean, you got to have it. And so, but Ben, let's get this show started with how did you get into fishing? Because you live now in the Chattanooga area, and but you're not originally from here. But where you're from, not too far from you, is known to have some tanks. And so,
well, I mean, originally I was in Illinois, so the original like how I got into bass fishing is my stepdad was fishing as much as he could, like regional events, right? Just local events, and he was fortunate enough to be working for a dealership, and the dealership was tied to Ranger boats. So, so I got the whole thing. I got, my first fish were caught on spinner bait and flipped that up on a rainy day and hit my mom in the head. And, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. I'm getting attention for this thing. And then just going to the Ranger boat dealership as a kid and meeting Forrest Wood and seeing, how everything was put together and really becoming, as a young, impressionable young person, Forrest Wood was my hero. He was a lot of people's hero, and still could be. I mean, he's passed now, but this man had integrity. This man built one of the best products, if not the best boat at the time for fishing. And more important than that, just the way that he treated people. Anytime that you met him, anytime you're around him, or anytime that you've seen him on television, that that definitely stuck with me. And so time moved on. I moved out to California, and I tried to get into fishing the first time, and it didn't work out so well. And I was in a relationship, got married, and the boat got sold and everything else. And then once I came around, I got back into the fishing world. And really what happened was I was in the insurance world on large commercial accounts, auto dealers, basically 250 employees or more in three different states. So I was flying around. Southwest Airlines was like my bus, right? And so I was working for the insurance company, and something had to give. I got to the point where I did not want to be a corporate person anymore, and it just didn't work out so well. So I started my own brokerage, and I still had quite a bit of commercial clients, but it's at a certain point I went and I fished my first tournament, and I fished a back then it was a Costa Series, Toyota Series now, as a co-angler. Right. And my brother got me into it because my brother he's on his way working the ranks with the Bassmaster Opens, Brian Partak. And so he told me, hey, go to these Costas. You don't need a boat. So I showed up to the first Costa. I'd never been on a bass boat in the last probably, I would say, 8 or 9 years. I hadn't been in a tournament situation. I think I fished one little club tournament in my life. So I'm out there throwing an umbrella rig on Shasta with a 1-power rod, like in 12-pound test, like not even knowing what I'm doing, right? Not even close. Anyway, fast forward to it. My brother's like, hey, look, this bass fishing world needs somebody that can explain the way you do to your commercial clients how these things work. Right. And I said, there is no way I'm going to sell a policy for insurance for $650 or whatever the bass boat premiums were back at the time, when I'm used to selling these 10, 20, 30, $200,000 premiums. I'm not going to do this. And then I fell into the love for this community. The community of bass fishing is a community unlike no other community in the world. And I think that there's no one that would disagree with that. And at the same time, I was going through a rebuild of myself. So I fell into this community, and then I just started putting my hand out there. Hi, my name is Ben Green. This is what I do. Hi, this and that. And then other key players helped me to figure out what I was doing and helped me get to the next level. I mean, the first thing that I got was, and I know that the trail is dissolved now, but Wild West Bass Trail, Gary Dobbins was part of it at a time. And I got allowed by them to sponsor my first year for pennies on the dollar, just because they were committed to seeing what I had. They liked me, wanted me to grow, best bass tournaments, all this. So my home was in Southern California, but it was Northern California where my business took off. Right. Go to about 4 years ago, we had an opportunity because of COVID and whatnot to move out to the Mecca, Jasper, Tennessee. We're right here on Nickajack, right in between Chickamauga and Guntersville. You can't ask for anything better than that in the bass fishing world. Right. So then I come out here and, again, I just see the community. And as you guys might know, I don't really have a big YouTube or anything, but I try to film every single event. I try to get the energy and enthusiasm from the event. I try to build as much around fishing as I can and not draw back from it. Right. And what's happened in the miracle side of that, and you just touched on it in a minute there, Colin, is anybody can call me at any time about insurance, and I'm not going to tell you or sell you or say my insurance is better and you need to buy it, blah, blah, nonsense. Right. I don't do that. I see, hey, can I help you first with the situation you're in, whoever the carrier and agent relationship is? And if you'd like, we'll give you, an option. Right. But every single person, even when we're selling boat insurance, is like, hey, we're going to walk you through why this is that you're paying this money and how it works and so on and so forth, and really explain it. And the entire community, we're licensed in 23 states. We insure over 5,000 anglers. And what the entire community does is it affords me the opportunity to live my life taking care of anybody, no matter if they have a stake in this business by being a customer or not. And you'll see it hopefully on my social media posts, where I give as much credit and accountability and love to the people that are supporting us by tags and comments and word of mouth as I do anyone that spends money here. Right. I don't sit there and prioritize on that. So that kind of the whole fishing community for me is it's very deep, and fishing tournaments and doing these things, it's not even about fishing. It's about relationships and us getting out there and seeing each other and catching up with each other, even if it's in a very short period of time, because we all understand one another at a different level than really any other type of a community. And that's really why I love bass fishing.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and it doesn't have to be just bass fishermen and stuff like that. I mean, if somebody that's out there crappie fishing or something like that, if you see somebody that's out there, just the fishing world in general, I mean, because if you see somebody out there that's having boat issues, you're not going to just keep on going by them just because they're crappie fishing and stuff. So, the relationships that since I've been doing the YouTube, and Norman and I, we've done the Deck Talk podcast. I mean, I could not tell you. I mean, I couldn't name them all. The people that I've been able to associate with, to have on the podcast that we've been able to have, and it's really kind kind of just getting your foot into the fishing realm and just joining the fishing community. And once you kind of get in there and get into some tournaments, or even just going around just talking at the bait shops and stuff like that, I mean, you realize it is a family. And so, but I do though want to talk about, I mean, we are a fishing podcast, and so right now, I mean, we are fixing to hit the time of the year to where sight fishing is about to get hot and heavy, and we're going to start doing some bed flipping. If you're into flipping on some beds, because that spawning time's fixing to happen, brother.
Yeah, it is. Pockets are warming up. It's getting warm. They're out there on really right now on Nickajack. They're out there on the main river, getting ready, coming up stage, and you see them in pairs suspended, and they're at the right water depth. They just have to slide on into land, get a little land underneath them, and and I'm seeing them paired up. I'm seeing a lot of twos, combined together. Not necessarily schools, but almost like they're like pairing up already. I mean, suspended. It's the craziest thing. And now with forward facing sonar, you could see that. Before, I would never think that they're going to pair up out there and then slide in. I mean, I've never seen that before. And but that's kind of what I'm observing out here on Nickajack now.
Right. And it's crazy. And I tell people all the time, like with the forward facing sonar, I've been able to use it more as a tool of learning bass habits than actually going and picking them off. Have I done that? Yes. But I've been able to learn their habits of, like, for instance, I tell people, like, I was on Chick and just outside of Chester Frost, and I was fishing a ledge, and I was seeing this big old bass, and I was like, all right, I want to get it. And every time that he would come up over the ledge is when he was eating. But he was just making a big old circle. I mean, he would come out into the main river channel. And by the time he got back onto that ledge, he was ready to eat again. And for me, that's something that I never even thought that fish done. I just thought they moved up and moved down. Right. And then when I seen that, and I've seen it a couple of times, I'm like, this blows. I mean, what we thought growing up with fishing and the habits of fish, it blows my mind of what we thought we were wrong and stuff. So I've been able to learn so much with the forward facing sonar, just like what you're saying, like you're seeing them moving up in pairs. And who would have thought you would have? I mean, for me, I was thinking like you'd have the female move up and then the male's following right behind it. But it's not that they're moving up together, is how I thought. So
well, you look at everything else in nature. I mean, the geese right now are pairing up, and they're not ready to get on the beds. But it makes sense logically.
Right. So, and I know I was quite impressed to hear. I went out Tuesday, and I seen water temps 57, 58 degrees, and I'm like, heck yeah. And we had yesterday, and today was right at 80, and I'm like, it's about to happen. I'm ready. I may even try to go out for a few hours, sneak out, and see what I can get onto here tomorrow. Before all this rain, I think we're supposed to get like 2.5, 3 inches, and so if we get that much rain, the river's going to be muddy. So I'm trying to get out
color up for sure.
Yeah. So when is your favorite time of the year to fish?
It's going to be spring going into summer. I really like throwing a big double buzz bait on I actually throw it on a crankbait stick, 805 5 power 8 footer. I throw it on 40-pound braid, and it just gives me like a mid-air. I could stop that buzz bait.
Right.
I throw a horny toad on the back. And so I got a lot of weight in that bait, and I throw that thing and I stop it before it hits the water. And there's enough give in that rod that it loads up and it comes in like an airplane, lands. And
really?
A lot of times these bigger fish that I've caught on it, it's within the first foot or two. It's just, like it's gone.
Right.
And I really started that on the California Delta. Started doing that double buzz on the California Delta. I got 11th place in one of those pro-ams. And day one, I was an 88th. But by second day, I figured it out a little bit with some help. My co-angler day one, people talk about co-anglers, right? My co-angler had a red crankbait behind me. And I had never fished a square bill in the grass before, believe it or not. And I'm like, what's that all about? So I went out there day two armed with that, the red crankbait and the buzz bait. And I weighed 22, almost 23 pounds with an 866 kicker that gobbled that double buzz, like I was saying, just flung it out there. And I'm bringing it through the Tules, and that was like a baby seal. I did not think it was a bass. It hit so hard sideways, and I had I drew a really good co-angler. He's been a friend before that tournament, and Trout Kendall. And we were just like, oh my gosh, we were ecstatic. We went in like, probably shouldn't have done it, but we went in like an hour early because we wanted to be close enough to the weigh-in in case anything broke down, because I had that bag.
Are you tying your 40-pound braid directly to the buzzbait, or are you using a lead line on it?
No, I go straight braid to the buzzbait. Yeah, bam. Yeah, no stretch.
Yeah. So, because that was interesting what you said. So when you're throwing the double-bladed buzzbait, when you're throwing it, you're allowing it. So, like if you're throwing it out and then you let it load up, and so it's actually coming back towards the boat as it's hitting the water. Then.
Yeah. And it's easier. It's easier to keep that momentum because a lot of guys will throw it and it'll hit and then they'll swim it up. Yeah. You want those blades turning before it hits the top of the water.
Yeah.
I would tell you, if people like throwing buzz baits, try that tip. Not that I'm in any position to give fishing tips, but try that tip, and I would tell you, you're gonna catch a lot more fish, and they will be in the first foot.
Well, and see, and that's. As you were saying that, I'm thinking because I like throwing buzz baits and stuff, especially around downfalls and docks and stuff like that. And usually you're throwing, especially if you're throwing at a downfall, that the downfall may be only 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from the water's edge. And so you're wanting to be able to have it. And I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, because I'll throw it out there, and I will keep it as tight as I can to where it doesn't sink, and as soon as it hits, I'm practically going on and start cranking it.
Yeah, if you're using a flipping stick or something, you'd have no give on that.
No.
And the other thing, I fished with a guy who makes baits, braidback buzz baits. I fished with him, and he was always throwing it on a flipping stick. And he pulled that. We were in a topwater tournament, and he pulled that bait away from 3 or 4 good ones. And I was like, hey, dude, this is the reason I throw it on a crankbait rod.
Yeah.
Because especially with straight braid, they get it on the crankbait rod. You got a lot of, your deep diving crankbait rod, you got a lot of give in it. And they load up right. They just load up right. You don't pull it away from them.
That's interesting. Very interesting. All right, guys, that's the tip of the day. We're gone now.
I got some other real quick insurance tips, like real quick.
No.
For anybody, but just the common things that I see, Colin. Is that okay to go over that right now?
Hey, we're good. We're laid back. We go down rabbit holes. We kind of just fly by the seat of our pants because we've seen that is how people tend to like it is when it's not to where it looks like it's scripted. So you do your thing. We have you on here, and you know what?
I just want to keep people out of trouble. First thing is your trailers. The trailers, almost every trailer that comes in here that we get. Other people's declaration pages, they ask me to message me on Facebook, hey, dude, this is my quote from wherever. I look at it, first thing I look at is the trailer. Trailers are valued. Right now, I've got a couple different estimates coming in across the country because the insurance companies don't even. This is the difference. Insurance companies don't. Why I'm insuring these trailers so high. And I'm talking specifically a 2015 model on up, right? 10 grand on the trailer. I mean, that's what it is. Retail, a brand new Phoenix trailer, probably about $9,800. And that doesn't include shipping.
right.
on that. So you're probably about 10.5, right? Plus tax. So you're looking at that, and in the different manufacturers, they're all pretty tight on that. So that's a big issue. Now, if you say like, I got a 2000 model boat, look at the trailer value. Look at how the trailer's covered. Is if it's actual cash value, you're going to have to find something like in kind, because the insurance companies will not do you any favors, period. Right. You've got to prove the value. They're not going to do it for you, especially if it's not in their favor. Right. So, I'm not, and again, I'm not a fan. I don't sit here and tout any type of an insurance company. You've never heard me even talk about an insurance company. You're around me long enough. But the fact is we have to help you manage that process, or your agent has to help you manage that process and know kind of how that is, because it's a contract. And these insurance companies aren't going to budge on the contract. If they're going to, it's going to be in their favor and not yours. So that trailer, look at the trailer, know if it's replacement cost or actual cash value. Don't get dinged at the claim time. And be prepared to show the receipts on how much a trailer like in kind costs, because that's what we get our trailers customized in the parking lot all the time. People lose notes. They don't leave notes. They just customize our trailer and walk away.
Exactly.
So that's one of the big ones that we see a lot of times. Another time is, your contents, right? If your rods and reels are just left on the deck and you go to weigh in and somebody steals them, that is not covered by the boat insurance policy. It's not.
Right.
If it's under the deck lid and it's locked and there's visible signs of forced entry, most of the carriers across the country, they will pay that claim, but they won't pay it if your rods and reels are on the deck. However, they're on the deck, you're driving to your spot, you're trot, you forget to strap them down, or you did strap them down, you spear a wave, hit a wave, whatever, the rods go swimming, that is covered on most insurance policies under your personal property. So you want to really kind of understand how that works. You mentioned Joe Burns rods. Those things are really expensive. We have race cars that are floating jewelry boxes. That's what we're insuring here.
Yeah.
Right. And so the inherent risk that's there is pretty substantial. One other thing, and we'll probably move on about this insurance situation, but a lot of guys will say in these posts on these forums, and I see, I don't have insurance on my boat. My boat's paid off. I don't need insurance, blah, blah, blah. You put your buddy in that boat, you're responsible just like a vehicle for that guy's health and well-being. You get in one of these tournaments and you hit something and you eject a co-angler and you don't have the right insurance, it's not necessarily like that guy's going to do anything bad. Because in the fishing community and what I've seen doing this for as long as I have, we don't sue each other, believe it or not. We don't. However, somebody's passed away, somebody's perished. It's not them coming after you. It's the attorney that the family hired, because now instantly you're a bad man. Right? So what you want to understand is when you're looking at these liability limits, at a minimum, the tournaments usually require $300,000. We typically will quote the 300, but we'll also quote $500,000, because here's the deal. You and I are out there fishing and we get hit by somebody that I protect.
Right.
Accidents happen. They happen beyond the guy's control. He hits a log, flies over and causes injury to us.
Right.
The price between $300,000 and $500,000 isn't that much, but the difference to you and me in a settlement for $200,000 into our family, if we can't work, is significant.
Oh yeah.
And so you look at this liability and some of these guys that, I don't even comment on them anymore. I don't get sucked into this drama, and I don't get sucked into the thing. Oh, insurance is a scam. You know why it's a scam? Because you're not educated. You're buying this premium based on pricing. Typically the guy that feels like it's a scam, and oh, dude, you've got 3 or 4 claims in the last 4 years. So who's scamming who? So you're paying $600 in, and they're paying out $7,000 every time you pop a lower unit.
Exactly. Right.
By the way, we all know guys like this. You got 3 jacked lower units in your garage.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So you're profiting off of it. Those kinds of people with generally that attitude, there's no reason to even talk to them. We just don't entertain that. But the people that realize like, hey, I want to do this right. I want to do it safe. The biggest part of your insurance policy is common sense. If you get behind that wheel, like me, I have slowed down a lot. In the beginning, I've got people that will tell you that I put that pedal to the metal when that blast off went off, and I didn't lift until I was 15 yards from my hole. I mean, I literally right through it. One of my buddies, Stacy Teeters, you guys know Stacy, he'd be like, hey, you realize you're not supposed to put power poles down when you're on plane? I've slowed down quite significantly. then. So now I tell co-angler like the BFLs or whatever, I'm like, dude, if we see 55, it's good. The only reason we're going to run wide open throttle is so somebody doesn't run us over. Right. It's just not worth it, you know, especially when the weather's cold like it has been. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Ben, you know, over the past year, we've seen publicly quite a few boating accidents out there. Some was with BASS, a couple others with other organizations. But if all of our viewers isn't familiar with the leash, that's a device that is actually attached from your boat to the motor. If your motor happens to come unbuckled by hitting something or whatever from the boat, it allows the motor to stay connected versus coming up in the boat when it breaks loose. Now, my question, Ben, is if you actually have something like the leash that is on your boat or other safety devices similar to that, that could possibly save your life if you have an accident. Does something like that, if you have it on your boat, does something like that affect your premium and your insurance cost if you have it versus not having it as far as a safety feature?
You would think so, but unfortunately not at this time, Norman. So what they really look at, the rating factors are going to be your experience of operating, the speed of the boat. Right. You know, a 250 powered boat, you know, anything over 65 miles an hour is going to pretty much get a surcharge from any of these carriers. Your driving record obviously comes into play. Your claim history with your watercraft and or your automobiles. Right. Especially if you have at-fault accidents, a generally indicator of paying attention. I mean, I've been guilty of it too. I grab that text message and I'm just like, what am I doing? Right. Yeah. It's not my life that I'm going to destroy by grabbing a text message. It's the guy I'm going to hit. Yeah. Yeah. So you're looking at that and you're going, okay, well, how do they build that into to a discount? The only discount that I know of that's available is if you have your state license, you know, your boater's ID card, your boater safety. And then ultimately, if you get if you go all the way out and get a captain's license, and most of the programs are like 15 to 20% discount. State deal is usually like 5% if it's offered.
Right.
Now if you're like, let's say you're heading to the lake and you have an accident with the boat, you're not on water or anything like that. Would that be covered under auto or would that be covered under the boat insurance?
I love that question, Colin, because so many people think when you have your boat attached to your vehicle, it's covered, and it's not, buddy. It's covered under the liability of the vehicle. So the vehicle's towing down. There's the vehicle towing the boat down the road. Boat gets in an accident. Truck gets in an accident. Boat's damaged or destroyed. They'll pay for the damage to the other parties. They're not going to pay for your boat to get fixed. Your boat insurance is going to come into play for the value of that boat. Now, in some cases, some of the carriers do have $2,500 for trailers or $5,000 for trailers. I haven't really seen it bigger than that on a personal auto policy. Sometimes there's an extension, but a lot of people think that. And we get these calls. No offense, I'm not picking on anybody, you know, individually. But we get these calls. Hey, Ben, just picked up brand new 2025 Bass Cat Cougar, $121,000. Can I get insurance on it? I'm like, what do you mean you just picked it up? Well, I've had it for 2 weeks. Oh man. And you're like, dude, you I mean, nothing's covering that. Well, I kept it in the garage. Well, what if the garage catches fire? We just saw it in California. Oh my gosh, everything got blazed. You know, we just saw it in Carolina. So and people don't understand that. They think the homeowner is going to cover it. It's not. You got to. This is a specific, again, race car jewelry box. It's got to have its own protection, its own policy. And now it's not going to apply to everybody. If you're like our buddy Zach Kinsey, and I'm not picking on Zach, I'm just saying that dude can make boats work that have been parked in lots for years. He's restored several boats. He's an excellent fisherman, and he takes pride in what he does. His boats maybe worth $2,000 or $3,000 in the open market. To him, it's worth a lot more. Yeah, he can just get a liability policy which protects if he has a co-angler fly out or if he runs into somebody. He doesn't necessarily need to protect that boat. So a lot of the times, it's not what I'm talking about. It's not going to pertain to somebody like Zach. But for the most part, if you're sitting there and your boat's like $7,500 on up, you can get some of these coverages that I'm talking about.
Right. And when you said that Zach's a great fisherman, that's underestimated. I mean, I've fished against Zach a lot. I've been beat by Zach a lot.
Hey, Colin, get all you got.
Yeah. There's one thing, if you're fishing against Zach, that if you're fishing on the river, he says, "I'm here, boys." And so if you're fishing against Zach on the river, there's going to be a monster smallmouth coming in whenever.
We had our first Wednesday nighters last night here in Marion County. And this dude, he broke his ankle. I don't know if you guys know this, but he's wearing a boot and he wants to fish and he's on him. He hasn't even been up here in 3 months and he's on him. You know what I mean? So he's out there. He took his boot off to run his trolling motor with the boat. He's up there running in there, broken. And then he puts it back on at the end. And I'm like, oh my gosh, buddy, how bad do you want it? That's Zach Kinsey.
That's love for the sport right there.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoy. I've never been in the boat with him. I want to get in the boat with him, but he's one of the people that like how we're talking about family and stuff like that, the fishing family, that I enjoy competing against him just because I know that if I'm going to beat him, I have to bring my A game to it because I know, just like what I said, he's going to bring in a tank of a smallmouth and he's going to have his limit. But I enjoy fishing against him just because I'm competitive. He's competitive. We're all competitive. We're out there doing tournaments. You're all competitive.
And there's so many people across this nation that get up at 3:00 in the morning and put these tournaments on. They don't get a penny. They are out of their own pocket for their expenses, and they do it because they love it. And to see that, again, another reason the community is so great is that there's so many people that do this not for a dime or a dollar. They do it because they truly love supporting the community. Yeah. Zach's one of them.
He is. I was about to say, and he's that hits the nail on the head when you say that. So, and guys, kind of going back on the insurance, and I know this is kind of not typical, but again, Norman and I and Ben, we know that this is very important, and we know that here within a couple of weeks, I mean, there's a lot of boats already out there, but here in a couple of weeks, you're going to start seeing the big pontoons, the Sea-Doos, the wake boats and stuff like that. And so there's things that you got to do to be safe. And so we want to make sure that we don't want to see anybody get in trouble because they're not covered with something. And, and if you kind of, Ben, we talked about it kind of before we went live. If you kind of want to see the process, and especially, and one reason why I brought up about being on the road, is it automotive or if it's on the boat insurance? If the guys from Tactical Bass and Matt Allen had, this was years ago, had an accident heading. I think they were actually coming from California heading out east or something like that. They were doing a trip to do some filming and had an accident, and the person that just happened to be insuring them is sitting right here on the screen. And Matt talks. He wasn't in the videos that he'd done a couple of videos about it, and then Ben actually he actually hopped in the boat. I remember seeing one video to where he was actually in his boat and y'all were talking a little bit about it. But Matt Allen, I think he broke it down especially from with his accident on his videos. He done a very good job. And so if you go back and look, and I think it's under the Tactical Bassin, and just look up Matt Allen's boat accident or whatever. I forgot the name of the title, but that will kind of give you a ballpark idea and stuff of really kind of the process that he had to go through. And I know, I mean, he spoke highly of you, Ben, because I mean, he was like, he was right on it. It was, I called, I made a phone call, and I mean, that you had jumped on it, you had gotten everything settled up for him, ready to go, and he was on his way and he had a new boat. And I think he even had, because he rolled the truck, didn't he?
Yeah. So to give you a little bit of the backstory there, Colin, Tim had called us. We got him a guide policy. Tim was guiding at the time too. And we got him all dialed in, or maybe he wasn't guiding, but we sold Tim a policy. And I kind of knew, of course, everybody knew who Tactical Bassin was. I knew a little bit about Tim. And then Matt's wife called and she said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you. My husband has a lot of these things, just fishing gear, general fishing gear, and we'd like to be specifically included in a policy." And so I've sold them, and a lot of anglers across the country now have picked it up. And it just basically covers their equipment anywhere. That's their filming equipment, your extra power poles, trolling motor, even an outboard we could schedule. Everything that's sitting in there that is kind of questionable, especially if you make your living like Mike does guiding in the fishing world. It's not going to be on your homeowner's policy, and your boat policy is going to cover it because it's not in part of the boat, right? So we started this policy. I went up there to Clear Lake. This is prior to this video, and I meet Matt, and their baby was just real young, and we're sitting there, and Matt's kind of like in one ear and out the other a little bit, but he's trying to pay attention to everything, and he's a big deal, to me, he's a big deal, and I'm just trying to get everything together. Long story short, I get all that done. It was the coolest experience for me because I drove my boat across the lake, ate lunch with them or dinner, and then drove my boat back to the motel. And I hadn't been used to that. And I had a buddy with me, and I was like, "Hey, we're going to go meet Matt Allen." Like we're definitely like school children. So the point is, you fast forward, I got an intern, Michael Nazarian. He's an awesome kid. He's interning with me. And I was like, "Hey, dude, we're going to knock off early. We're going to go over to this tackle store up in Sylmar, basically out in California somewhere." And he's like, "All right, let's go over there." So we go in there, and I get this 300 big reel, the 300 on sale, the Corrado. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're walking out of there. We're all happy because they showed me that they don't make those reels anymore. They're awesome reels. If you know, you know. Anyway, my phone rings in my truck, and it's on speakerphone, and it's Matt's wife. And I was the second person she called, hysterical, after she found out because she didn't know what to do next. Right. Now, I only insured that equipment policy, but I didn't insure the boat, the truck, the camper, any of that. So I said, "Look, I'm going to get as much information as I can right now from you. Can I call Tim?" Because I know they're very close friends, right? I was like, "Can I call Tim? I'm going to put together the entire claim scenario, and you just copy and paste this to the other carriers. I'm not going to name their names, and if they slip out, I'm sorry." But I didn't handle those carriers. I just did the framework for them. Right. So I managed the process with them through it. And one said, "Oh, we're not going to pay for this because we don't have proof that it was attached to the vehicle." I'm like, "How do you not have proof? It's in the video. Here's the video. Right. This is the video. It's the thumbnail for the video. That's proof." Horrible experience. The other one, Matt calls me, goes, "Hey, they're not going to pay me for my power poles and my graphs and my trolling motor." So I went over to the junkyard to get those off, and they told me that was theft, and they were going to come after me for that. And I don't know if Matt wants this information out or not, but it's been a while and everything, and it just is what it is. Yeah. So I'm like, "Matt, just go put it back. We'll take care of it. The policy I sold you has coverage extension for that. It just happened to be that way." I didn't even know at the time when I set it up that it would do that. So I'm like biting my nails, like, is this going to work the way insurance is supposed to work, right? Never want to be in that position, but there I was. So we get every other one dealt with: the truck, the boat, the camper. And then it's time for us to turn the claim in on my policy that I sold him. We turned that claim in at 7:00 in the morning online. I turned that claim in for him. I called him at 10 just out of curiosity, which is way fast for any insurance company, and don't think that they operate like that because they certainly don't. Bam, he calls, he goes, "Yeah, she's already taken care of it. She needs some proof on something." But we're talking about lots of money here getting paid out on that situation in terms of the property that they had damaged, especially the stuff that was on the boat that the boat was declining. Right. So that all got dealt with. And then you fast forward again another 4 or 5 months. I had to get my brother on working here because it was just me. I got my brother hired up and going. I got my cousin hired up and going. And Matt, I go up there to Clear Lake for a pro-am. This is my first year on the front of the boat, too. So Matt's a big deal. He's a customer. I'm relatively new in the fishing world for insurance, relatively new to the fishing game, period. It's 2017. I was able to afford a brand new Skeeter, ZX225. I was out there on the lake, on Clear Lake, trying to figure things out. And Matt says we had to hunt Ben down. He didn't have to hunt me down. I was sitting there like, where is he? When's he going to call? Whatever. This Matt Allen. And then the guy gets in my boat, not his.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we look at these pro anglers or people like Matt with a big following and everything, they're always trying to push their brands and things. He got in my boat.
Yeah.
What that showed me was that he was on my side, just like what we see on the videos, because I'm a fan, obviously, of Matt before anything. And the whole entire component, and I think that actually helps me understand the fishing community, is first to consult, whether they buy from me or not. But in that video, the intent of that video was that you could take it to any relationship that you have. If we get business from it, great, but it's not the intent. It's to educate basically to the environment. And so I just being around the guy and seeing that, I didn't know what to wear. I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know if it was going to be scripted or not. You know what he says 2 seconds before the camera goes on? He goes, be authentic. My audience can spot it if you're not. That was the only tip.
Yeah.
That was the only tip. And all of a sudden it's like, hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. And I'm like, now my previous history, I worked for Merv Griffin in the hotel business. I dealt with all the movie stars, all the Hollywood A-listers. I've been around all of them. But I'm in the boat with Matt Allen, and I actually was like, I had that celebrity aura more so than being around some of these people. And so
I can imagine that. I mean, because I grew up in Nashville. The person that lived 2 houses down from us done the music videos for all the country music. And so they were all coming. I mean, it was nothing to see country music like top name people, Reba McEntire, Doug Stone, Garth Brooks and stuff, swing through his house just to talk about the next music video that they're going to be doing. And so, and then Trace Adkins lived right down the road. I would go and fish in his backyard, and he would come down and talk to us. And so seeing a country music star to me is nothing. I mean, and I really don't ever get or like starstruck.
That's what it is.
But for me, I've met Matt and Tim, and they are the nicest guys. I mean, they will answer whatever kind of questions. I just went and asked them a question about one of the videos that I had just seen, and I sat and talked to them about 25, 30 minutes just because I asked one question, and I never asked another question because they went word for word, like breaking things down for me to make sure that I understood in more depth and stuff. I wasn't really shell shocked with them. The one that got me was Jimmy Houston and Bill Dance. That was the two. I'm like over here like, oh my gosh, do you see that? And so,
because I'm sure, like me, Colin, you started watching them,
right, and so
Hank Parker and them.
Oh yeah, and so I can imagine, but I think that because he was not trying to push people to you in those videos, and I think he was just trying to kind of like what we're trying to do is just get it out, to be able to let people to know hey, this is what's going on, and I mean he done a great job with those videos, and I really appreciate it. And I didn't know until I seen the video with him in your boat and you was doing that. And I was like, I know that dude. So
yeah. And in that event, I got ninth. I got ninth California Open. And I remember getting in the car and telling my wife, I was like, hey, I got ninth in my first year of fishing. I said, don't get too used to it. she started laughing, and I said, she goes, how much you get? And I said, like, it was like $2,700. And I was like, my gosh, I said, it's probably not going to happen again. And it hasn't. But the fact of the matter, oh my gosh. The fact of the matter was that was the best trip of my entire fishing being. I mean, I can't say that because other people are family members and stuff, but it definitely was right up there.
Yeah.
So, kind of to go back on to the fishing aspect, we got a question that says, do you prefer to fish shallow water docks or deep lake docks?
Who's that for?
You.
Oh, shallow or deep?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, if I'm not feeling it and I don't have energy, I'm fishing a Senko on deep water docks. As you never know what's going to eat that thing. I love throwing a wacky rig Senko as much as I do anything else. Shallow, if it's the right time, like now, spinner bait, I'd go nothing less than a half ounce. I don't really do a lot of 3/8 stuff. And the other thing that is just the most amazing bite in the world, once you experience it, it will change your life in clear water, is I use a little jointed glide bait. Scottsboro makes it, but you don't need it. That one's $100. You don't necessarily need that one. Who's just come out with Buka? Buka's got that one. It's ABS plastic. I think it's like $30. Very similar. High in the water column. Pitch that in, and I learned from watching Ben Milliken video. Pitch that thing in, bam, 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 bam. Just cut that thing. Boom, 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 boom. Right next. It's staying in the strike zone next to those shallow water docks. And when they come out, you will literally pee yourself. Like it's like boom. And it's not a big old hook set. It's just a sweeping hook set. You got them. And then you either boat flip them or you keep this is how you lose them. If you change directions on them, you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
But you just keep them walking, and people are like, why do these guys hook a fish and they run to the back of the boat? It's to keep that leverage. It's to keep that leverage all the way around until your net guy can come out and help you out, or you can figure out if you're going to boat flip it or not, seeing where that hook position is.
Oh, yeah.
But I hope that answers the question. I really don't have a preference. Depends on the conditions. But, man, that glide bait and that Senko.
Yeah. Another question says, hold on. Crap. People are talking amongst themselves.
Okay.
And so Callie just said, hey guys. So, hey Callie. But
if people don't know, Callie works with me.
Right.
Callie works with me, and she handles really her number one job is the boat insurance aspect of it.
Right.
Yep. And then she goes on tour. Her boyfriend's Fletcher Shyrock, so she goes on tour with him. And so that gives her some freedom and flexibility, but she's very invested in the bass fishing community, huge part of it. And she knows, I think the biggest thing you've got to know in being in any type of service level with the fishing industry is the psychology of the bass fisherman, because we're all in it for the same thing. It's our recreation. Especially if you're not a pro, you take so much time away from your family time, your vacation time, everything that you do to be out there. And that time is so precious to us because we all have memories, so ingrained in fishing. And so Callie has that same blood in her. She bleeds that blood.
Yeah. And we've actually have had Fletcher on the podcast. Yeah. And so, let's see. So, but I got people talking, so I'm having to scroll back through to talk. Because what's crazy, because right now we have 1,236 people on right now. And
hey, everybody.
So they'll get to talking about amongst each. Somebody will comment, and then they'll just comment back and forth. So I seen it, and it said, hold on. Ah, here it is. What's the biggest difference in fishing the Delta and to fishing from the waters on the TVA?
The biggest difference, I don't know necessarily that there's a difference. A lot of people are going to say tide, but it's not, because the TVA will swing depending on your body. Guntersville, Chickamauga, 4 or 5 foot very rapidly. Nickajack, I've seen it 3 foot consistently inconsistent. Yeah. So the biggest difference, I know the biggest difference, sea lion. Man, you're out there. And I say it all the time. Zach's been fishing with me, everybody. I'm like, oh, dude, that was a sea lion. He's like, what? Where are you from? What are you talking about? Yeah, sea lions. You see a sea lion, you get the heck out of there.
I'd say your chance of catching a 19 or 20 pounder.
Yeah. No, I've seen people get tangled up with a sea lion, and they'll just they'll take that rod right out of your hand, especially for straight braid. And on the Delta, 65-pound test braid, you can't hold, it's gone.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't imagine that. When Norman, I've talked to Norman, I've talked on the podcast about this. Going to Florida and fishing around gators and stuff, and I've actually had a gator destroy a peacock bass that I've caught. It was like a 6-pound peacock, the biggest peacock, and it came up out of the water, seen it, and I was like, oh yeah. And Norman, we had doubled up. And so Norman was coming on the right side. The gator was coming from my left. And so I just had like a thin little alleyway to be able to get this peacock in. And if you keep the peacock down in the water, the gator will not do anything. But once it breaks the water and makes a splash and stuff, that gator just, and it came up and it splashed. And then it went back and came up again. Well, the second time that it came up, whoa, and that sucker just, and feeling that gator just pull, and which, I mean, I probably maybe 3 tail kicks, maybe, before the line broke. But I couldn't imagine hanging a sea lion and what that sucker.
It's never happened to me. I don't want fishy game knocking on my door. It's never happened to me.
So
my buddy Mitch Forrest, it happened to him.
Oh man.
There you go.
Let's see. Tyler Thornberry says,
"Oh boy,
where did you catch that 10-pounder?"
All right. So Tyler and I fished a tournament together, right? And I'm not going to tell you where it is because then he will show up at my door. But he went back in this pocket, and it's kind of his area, definitely, you know. And we caught him pretty good with jigs. So there was a Saturday tournament, and Tyler did like 14, 15 pounds. Sunday I fished with Zach, and we were fishing over here in Marion County. And I was like, man, we got 3 little swimmers. We're going to go over here. We're going to go for a boat ride, go up in this area. So we went over there, and I'd never thrown this jig, and I'd kind of give it to you. It's a Magnum is the bait company, and it is a gigantic. Hang on a second, I got one right here. All right, feast your eyes on this sucker. Tyler's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, opportunistic to sell some baits. I don't really sell these." As a customer of mine, but it's this company Magnum. So this honking thing. So Ryan Godsey, he's tied up next to me. He's fishing with his dad or his grandpa. I can't remember. Guy steps across my deck, and I'm like, I'm gonna go grab that jig. So I grabbed this jig out of there, and I had a little finesse jig. I don't have that up here. And I put it in there, and I was like, that doesn't look right. So I cut this thing right about there, and I put Dirty Jig 6/0. It's a 6/0 in there, 3/4 ounce jig. And I go into this area, and I'm like, Zach, be ready. And I stick a 5. So now we've all been there. I got a 5, and I've got now 2 little swimmers. They're like 2.5, 3 pounds in there. And I was like, hey, all hands on deck. We got 30 minutes. We had 45 minutes. We had a 30-minute run to get back in. Come back around the pocket. Zach flings a chatterbait into the tree. And I'm like, in fishing tournaments, you get very few shots on goal.
Yeah.
And the difference between the guys that are really successful or the people, because women fish too and they're really good at fishing, is that they can focus in the pocket, right? Well, I'm in the pocket and I hate having shots on goal and failing. We all do. So Zach's back there. We know how great a fisherman he is. He flings a chatterbait in the tree. I'm like, what is it? He goes, it's a jackhammer. I said, turn around. We're going to go get your jackhammer. Get the jackhammer. Get back in position. Fling it up on the bank. Walk it down. Bam! Hits like the biggest drum you've ever caught. You know how great those drum are when they bite. Mm-hmm. Bam! And I load it up and I start turning that reel handle, and it's really hard to turn. And that fish comes up and straight up in front of the boat, in front of the trolling motor. And Zach's like, "Yep, we're gonna need that one." So I'm like, all right, so he's got the net out. We're all on the right side. That fish goes on the left side. Trolling motor's in the water. It's under the trolling motor. Now on the Skeeter, you've got a keel guard, right?
Right.
And the line can get in between the keel guard and the hole, because it happened to me on Lake Fork, like on a 1 pounder, but it didn't happen. So I bring this fish. Now this fish is under, and it surfaces underneath the hole on the opposite side, on the bank side of the boat. I got this thing like this, fully loaded up. I'm turning that reel as hard as I can. It comes up. Zach is probably the best net man on the planet. And that net's right there at the water surface, and that fish, this is the first time I've actually laid eyes on it, goes over the top of the net. And I'm like, Zach, we got one more chance. I'm taking it straight to the sky. And Zach, if you know him, he probably weighs 102 pounds.
Soaking wet.
He's got this rod way out here, which you know is no man's land when you're netting. And he's about to fall off the boat, and he gets that fish. The fish is in the net. Net's even with the surface of the water. I grab Zach's shoulder. He's holding on to the thing. I bring him back in here. I go straight to the jig, grab the jig. I'm like, you deal with the fish, Zach. Pull it out. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, we got to go. I turn around and I make another cast, and Zach's holding this fish down there. And I go, like, I know what I'm talking about. I go, Zach, that's a 10-pounder. And it was like, oh my gosh. And I had no idea. So then I start fishing some more, and he's like, hey, dude, we're going to have to take it in with the little one. I think we have enough to win, but we don't want to be late. So I text my girlfriend, actually my wife at the time. She's my wife still. Anyway, this is live. And I text her, I'm like, hey, show up the ramp, because Adam Green, now I know we're talking about local guys here, but Adam Green had talked so much smack the day before, how he was going to beat Zach and I, because he and I fished Chickamauga the day before,
right,
in a tournament over there. And anyway, so he talked all this smack. So my wife, if you know her, she never comes, because I never ask her to come over, look at the weigh-ins or anything. Just the way that it is. It works well that way. So she shows up. So all these guys are there. They're like, what's she doing here? And then they see me, and I don't have a very good poker face. So I was like, first thing I see is Thornberry's North Shore Plumbing wrap truck, and I'm like, oh, dang. I had no idea he was in the tournament today, because I caught that where he showed me. So I was like, oh, buddy, what am I going to say to Tyler? So we pull out and everything, go over there, have a little thing, weigh in the fish. I weigh the fish on my Bubba scale, and it was 9 pounds, 15 ounces. Now, I'm not saying I'm smart, but I'm not saying I'm dumb, but I didn't know how to read a scale. So I think it's 9.15, 9 pounds and 1.5 ounces.
Yeah.
So it doesn't register with me.
Yeah, because some scales read that way and some don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't register with me. So I'm not doing, backflips and everything. I know that I have a pretty good bag. I don't know that we've won, and I don't know that I have a 10-pounder. So we get up there, weigh in the fish, 17.9. It was at like 18, 17.9. He called 17.9. And now I'm just like, my wife's there. I'm filming. I'm happy, whatever. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to tell Tyler, that I just caught a 10-pounder on his spot because he's going to kill me. And the guy goes, we got a 10-pounder. The guy doing the weigh-in. And I'm like, what? Holy smoke. I've never caught 866 on the California Delta was my biggest before that. So I'm all ecstatic. It was really great. But so Tyler did show me where that fish was. I went back down there and I stuck it. So I keep telling him, Tyler, you got to catch a 10-pounder so that I don't feel so bad about poaching it. But he wasn't in the tournament, for crying out loud.
Right.
Sure he's down there.
Is that the video?
Sure he's down there punching the keys right now.
I seen a video that you was fishing, and you could tell that you was jigging a jig, and then it looked like it got stuck or hung up, and you see that where you're loading it up, and then you pop it, and then it came loose, and then the next thing you know, you're like, whoa.
I think that was that was actually that Magnum Baits thing that I posted.
Right.
Because I was just telling people coming into the spawn, that's what I caught him on, and that wasn't me in that video. And I couldn't go back in and edit, hey, that's not me. But I posted about my 10-pounder, which that fish that the guy caught wasn't a 10.
Right.
But it could have been that, or I like to fish an LV 500, which is a lipless in the grass. It's a 3/4 ounce small frame lipless bait. And I fish it very aggressively like that. Bam, bam, bam. And it's like, it's a workout and a half. But when they hit it, they'll hit it and you might not know. And then they'll freight train on you.
Right.
So, man, we've already been on here an hour and 5 minutes, brother.
Doesn't feel like it.
That's what we tell people all the time. Once we get on here talking, this is the quickest hour that's ever going to happen. And it's just because we enjoy talking fishing, and we let it go whatever direction it wants to go, and we've had some characters on that has taken it down some crazy rabbit holes. But I don't want to hold you too much longer, brother, because I know your California people still have a little bit of a time frame, so your business day is still ticking. So, but
I'm in California time right now, which feels weird to me because it's actually about 3:30 or 4 o'clock right now, where it should be about 7 o'clock right now.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is we've got 3 different time zones with us on this podcast right now. But man, Ben, I cannot thank you enough for coming on here. The information, again, you hit the nail on the head with what the purpose of why I was wanting you to come on. And guys, if you have any questions, make sure I'm going to put his website and phone number down in the description. So if you have any questions, just make sure you reach out to him. And so Tyler says, Ben Green is a great guy, best insurance man around. If you have boat insurance, get a hold of him. So
I forgot to leave one part out though about Tyler. He was not fishing in that tournament, but if you've ever been around that guy, he's pretty intimidating. And I was like, and he was like, you didn't go all the way back in there, and he knew right away I was lying too. He knew. So the next day or the next tournament available, we went in there together, and I told him when we were in the spot, "Hey, dude, I gotta come clean and tell you about this." But anyway, that's fishing. I didn't really coach his role, but I love the man. And I'm gonna put. I got a fiberglass replica down there, and I still haven't finished the plaque, but I'm gonna name that fish Tyler.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? So, but man, Ben, I really, again, we can't thank you enough for coming on. And just the information that you given out was phenomenal. And I hope, guys, that our viewers can get something out of what he has told us. I mean, because some of this information that he has told, or that he said already, he's already told me a couple of times already. So I kind of knew where he was going with it. But
I just wanted one thing I didn't bring up that's really important. We do also home, auto, everything personal liability for the angler family, all the event liabilities, tackle stores. We insure about 25 tackle stores across the country. That's growing. And, anything insurance related, just call me and get an opinion.
Yeah. Now, what about guides? Because I know some insurance, as soon as you say I'm a guide, they're like, no.
We have a proprietary guide program, and that's in all the states that we operate under Ben Green Insurance Agency. We have a wholesale relationship where we can operate in some of the other states as well. So I can't solicit in the states that I'm not licensed for insurance. But again, anytime you have an insurance question, I don't care what it is, even if it's not fishing related, but you're an angler and you just want to find out, I'll point you in the right direction every time.
Right. And can they find out on your website, like what states that y'all are in? Because what you said, that you're in 23 different states.
Yeah, you just fill out an application and we'll get you taken care of.
Okay. Yeah. So, but guys, I hope that y'all are able to get something out of this. We talked a little bit about fishing. We heard about a 10-pound largie, and
real quick, Colin, before we go off live, though, we have got to include Ben on our last question, though, that we typically ask, and the last questions kind of became a staple of the Deck Talk podcast. So anyway, here we go. But Ben, before we get to that question, make sure next week's episode, of course, myself and Colin with Deck Talk is going to be doing media at the Bassmaster Classic next week. But next week's episode is actually going to be the same day as Media Day that we're going to be covering during Media Day. But we're going to have a recorded episode that you still want to watch. It's going to be our normal time, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we're going to have our episode with Robert Wojciechowski, which is actually a bruiser bait teammate of ours. And next week's episode as well is going to be sponsored by Bruiser Baits. But anyway, before we go off live there, Ben, if you were to have one person to be able to fish with for the day on your boat, now this person could be passed away or still with us, who would that person be that you want to fish with for the day, and why would you want to fish with them?
It's an easy answer. Jesus Christ. I mean,
awesome, man.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? I wonder if he's ever gone fishing on somebody else's hole.
We had Clay Dyer on, and he said the exact same thing. And I told him, and I just spit it out before really even thinking about it. And I told him, I said, Clay, I said, I don't know if I would want that, because he'd be, hey, stupid, fish on the other side of the boat.
Oh, man.
So, but yeah,
I just asked, hey, do that water trick real quick.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But
you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And again, real quick, guys, go check out his social media. What is your social media?
YouTube, Ben Green Insurance Agency, and then Facebook, Ben Green Insurance Agency. And that's really get you anywhere that you want to go. Website is bengreenins.com, or you just put in Bass Boat Insurance Green and it'll pop up.
We'll put all the links in the description of this episode as well, so give people easier access to get to it when they watch the episode.
Yeah, so we're almost at 1,300 people watching this right now, and I would love to be able to have Ben call me up and say, man, I just had over 1,000 people just subscribe to my to my channels, and but make sure you go check them out.
My channel is very little insurance stuff. It's all about local events.
Correct.
It's local events. I'm not a compensated YouTuber. My job when I go out there is to show everybody having fun in whatever environment it is across the country.
Yeah.
And I'm not selling any baits. These are people like this Magnum company, Last Chance. They're all customers. Some of the executives at Sims, I insure them. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah. So, but go check him out. Thank you for watching.
Yep.
Ben, brother, man, thank you so much for coming on. We need to get out on the water and go wet a line or two, and maybe take me over there to where Tyler's told you, so we can. I mean, I don't have to catch a 10-pounder. I mean, I know. I mean, Tyler, he catches some big ones, but I mean,
let's see, bench press 350.
Probably, but but yeah, for sure, man. Again, we cannot thank you enough, and especially for doing this podcast right in the middle of your work day we can't thank you enough for what you have done and coming on here, and so thank you so much, guys. Make sure you go check him out again, and just remember, guys, God loves you as if you were the only person in this world to love, and we will see you out on the water, guys.
Much appreciated, gentlemen.
Thanks, Ben. See you.